Hey guys, this is Thoth from the Batsquatch podcast. I was just letting you know that if you're down on your luck, you ain't got any money, and you're sick of begging your parents for money to buy a beer or anything at all, download the Anchor app. The Anchor app is the easiest way to make a podcast. I mean, it's almost as easy as breathing. They distribute it for you. They teach you how to do basically everything. It's kind of like guided meditation for the podcast enthusiast. I mean, this is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, I can't think of anything that's easier or more fun than getting on the Anchor app and making a podcast. So get on board and try it out. It's amazing. Thanks. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Batsquatch podcast. This podcast is about spirituality, UFOs, paganism, and weightlifting. When I say weightlifting, I mean everything from dieting to blowing out your knees on a deadlift or a squat, or puking when you have tried every possible way to get your PR up and the only thing left is puke on the gym floor. My personal experience in all this stuff is I've seen angels face to face. I've seen UFOs. As a matter of fact, I see UFOs every day. I've had face to face contact with aliens, human aliens, non-human aliens. I've seen ghosts. I've seen ghosts in orb forms. I've seen practically everything you can imagine in what would be considered paranormal. I've seen gods, Hindu gods, face to face. I met the original Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, face to face. I met Krishna, Lord Krishna, face to face. Over the course of my life, I've seen all these sorts of things, and I've met Wiccan goddesses. I've met ascended masters, what people would consider ascended masters. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they'll just give you a feeling of bliss. Most of the time, if you see a UFO, the way you can tell whether it's from a divine source or a higher plane is, or if it's from a government source, is if you feel bliss. Not like happiness or emotion like you feel at church or when you go to Starbucks or when you look at porn for the first time, but a state of bliss that is just undeniably amazing. But if you don't feel anything when you see a UFO, then that's most likely that's a re-engineered government technology that they're testing out or flying around, or who knows what they're doing. I've had visions of the higher dimensions or spirit world sober. I've seen these things, all these things I've seen sober. I don't drink to get drunk. I follow the Mediterranean diet. Most of the time, I'll have 4 ounces of wine before bed or for lunch. But I don't get drunk. I hate being drunk. And I don't believe that being drunk causes or invites negative entities or reptilians or bad aliens to mess with you or to like inhabit part of your body like temporarily while you're drunk, or even if you've had like past friends in high school who died while they were drunk, or if they died and they were like heavy drinkers in high school. I don't believe that when you get drunk that those friends in their ghost form are coming around to inhabit your toe or inhabit your body or your finger just to feel what it was like to be drunk. It's insane and it's ridiculous. I've tried psychedelics in the past, and I advocate the legalization and decriminalization of all drugs. And I think that marijuana or cannabis should be available everywhere in the United States. The same as you should be able to get cannabis in the same way that you can get a beer. Of course, that excludes Utah and some of the crazy places in the Midwest and South who outlaw alcohol completely, or what are called dry counties. Dry counties are completely unconstitutional, and they are an abomination in the eyes of George Washington, if you ask me. That's my opinion. But marijuana, cannabis, it should be available at your local gas station. It's insane that it's illegal anywhere in the United States. It's your constitutional and human right to have cannabis or anything else. It is one of the main things that is guaranteed to people in the United States is cognitive freedom. If you want to destroy your body with a drug, then that's your right under the U.S. Constitution to do so. And no government, state or local, should be able to stop you from putting something in your body. That's your inalienable right under natural law. But what I was talking about earlier is psychedelics. In the UFO community, not so much in the spiritual community or the New Age community, strictly in the UFO community, there's a percentage of people, I think in my personal experience, it's been about 40%. About 40% of the people in the UFO community believe that if you smoke weed, even once, that a big reptilian person or a lizard person will automatically materialize right where you're at. They'll change their body, their physical body, because remember they're physical, to an astral body and jump into your body just to feel what it's like to be stoned or to smoke a joint. But that's not all. What they're going to do while you're smoking that joint is they're going to mess with you. They're going to try to get you to do something negative or harmful to yourself. And this is complete insanity. And this comes from intelligent people in the UFO community, well, that's impossible. They're in the UFO community, right? No. There are a lot of intelligent people in the UFO community. But it's a smaller percentage who believe this ridiculous idea. In all the psychedelics I've done, which aren't a lot, I've never seen anything like that. Now keep in mind also that I'm part Native American. I have all of the shamanic or medicine man spiritual gifts. And never in my entire life of smoking weed and trying a small amount of psychedelics did I ever see anything remotely like a lizard person or anything negative at all. The fact that the people in the UFO world believe that you weaken yourself by taking a psychedelic, to me, kind of goes to prove that they probably haven't tried them. For example, Amber Lyon, the former CNN reporter, has posted on her website, reset.me, that 85% of people who try ayahuasca report seeing the goddess of ayahuasca, or in other words, Mother Ayahuasca. Now, if I was to believe the UFO crazy people, that experience shouldn't happen. It's impossible. A big, giant reptile man or lizard person should be jumping all over them and messing with them and forcing them to like bang their head against a wall or something like that. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen? Because the big bad reptiles or lizard people don't give a fuck what you do. They don't give a fuck if you're taking ayahuasca, if you're smoking a joint, if you're taking mushrooms to improve your memory. For example, if a 90-year-old lady in Santa Barbara, California, who has terminal cancer, stage 4, lights up a joint that she got down to her local dispensary, you really expect me to believe that the second she sparks that joint, a giant lizard man is appearing inside that room and is going to try and mess with her? How easy would it be for a 8 to 9 foot tall reptile person to jump into part of her body and make her dead, basically? if they're so evil, that's pretty much what their goal would be, you know? Just inhabit her body for 5 seconds, force her to bang her head against the mirror or the sink, and you're done. And the reptile person doesn't really want to enjoy the high from marijuana, just wants to mess with you and, you know, cause you self-harm, make you hurt yourself or whatever. This is a theory that's insane. And I don't know anybody in my personal experience who has taken psychedelics, or even the people who I know who are potheads, who smoke every day, None of them have ever seen a lizard person, ever, in their life. They don't even think they exist. And these are like serious potheads who live for weed and who take psychedelics, I'd say monthly. None of them have ever reported that. What they have reported is some of this similar stuff that you hear Terence McKenna talk about with the machine elves and these higher, beautiful beings in these higher dimensions who tell you they love you 1,000 times. I love you 1,000,000 times. I love you 8,000 times. That's the reality of psychedelics, is it connects you to the higher dimensions where higher beings who love you tell you they love you. You're not necessarily leaving your body. You're becoming transcendent, and you're connecting to your higher spiritual bodies, and on, and it gets more complicated after that. But the experience from psychedelics is one of love, unconditional love, from higher beings in higher planes and dimensions, and often angelic beings as well. Because isn't a goddess angelic? The other thing I wanted to bring up and tell all you guys about is that it's kind of related, but there's a homeopath researcher named Ken Rolla in Florida. And this kind of flies in the face of all the people who believe that the second you smoke a joint, a big reptile lizard person is trying to mess you up. This guy, his name's Ken Rolla. He's a homeopath in Florida. He's had face-to-face experience with lizard people, or reptilians, whatever you want to call them. And they were physical. Like your everyday life is physical, you know. Like you pick up a cup of coffee, the cup's real. So he had face-to-face conversations with, I think it was 3 lizard guys, who were all male, reptilian men, reptilian lizard guys. But what he said was that these lizard guys were benevolent. And the reason why they were benevolent was because they got into a fist fight with a human being, and the human beat their ass, knocked them out, or choked them out, just beat the shit out of them. They lost the fight. A human being beat the fuck out of them. And so that made them rethink their intentions towards all life, the universe, everything. You know, I kind of snapped them into, you know, as a kind of like a Zen koan, just like woke them up. They're like, you know, I'm not going to try and be, you know, serving myself or evil anymore. I'm going to try and go on a spiritual path. And that's what they did. And I guess these 3 lizard guys, reptilian men, they continue to communicate with Ken. I think he said about twice a month, somewhere around there. And they're on a spiritual path to enlightenment or higher planes. And from what it sounded like to me, their philosophy was more along the lines of a mix of Buddhism and Jainism. And they were completely benevolent and wanted express their unconditional love towards him. So that's something that kind of goes against the idea that all reptilian people are evil, all lizard people are evil. And it's just basic common sense that any type of alien you come across, there's going to be good ones and bad ones, just like anything else that exists. So, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that with this podcast, part of my goal as a martial artist is to not knock out or beat the fuck out of the Batsquatch, but I wanted to fight the Batsquatch because there have been a lot of, I think there's been 3 sightings in the last two or 3 years up in Washington State of an actual Batsquatch, a Sasquatch with wings, if you can believe it. And these have come from regular people, normal people who had been hiking and saw a fucking Sasquatch flying around. You know? And I'm a UFC fighter. That's the type of stuff I do. Mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. So when I heard that, the first thought that came to my mind was, what if I get the Batsquatch in a rear naked choke and he kind of like rolls over where I got his back and starts flying up into the air. I got like 8 seconds, or who knows how, maybe 10, 15 seconds for a Batsquatch to cut off his carotid artery and choke him out. But what if he's flying and I'm 20 feet up, 30 feet up in the air? Do I release the choke? And I release the choke and then I try to maybe knock him out, elbow him in the head, but I'm 30 feet up in the air. So how am I going to get down, you know? So that's the type of stuff that came to my head was, how do you manage the physical fight when you're 30 feet in the air? Do I have to wait for him to fly over a river or a pond or a lake or something? So when I was in Washington State last year, I saw hundreds of UFOs, and I had telepathic communication from them. I got a lot of like daytime footage of UFOs flying around. I saw things that were like medieval, paranormal, like medieval type beings, you know, that you don't hear about. I had a literal fairy with wings, like Tinkerbell, fly past my face. This is in the middle of the forest in Washington State. But at nighttime, things were different. During the night, I I would go to this place that's an entrance to the Bigfoot tunnels that are underground. And this place is like covered in these giant boulders. And I sat there for 2 hours asking for Bigfoot or Sasquatch to just come and talk and hang out. You know what I mean? And, give you the truth about what your origins are, what where you came, what planet you guys came from and everything, what dimension you came from. So after 2 hours, I got tired of sitting there, and I went and sat in the grass and I was looking at the UFOs that were flying in the sky, like hundreds of them. And I heard these giant footsteps coming at me, like somebody's running at me, not like a regular person, but something that was like really just massive. And I looked over and there wasn't anything there. Then I looked about 10 feet to the right of there, and I saw a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch standing there. And what happened was the Sasquatch turned on its higher bodies, its spiritual bodies. It's not its astral body, but the body above that, its light body, and lit up all bright in the middle of the field. And after that, it flew across the field. And that was amazing. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And it made me wonder if, since it had wings and it flew, do all the Bigfoots or Sasquatch have that ability? Or are there different breeds? Or did it just show that to me as something that it wanted me to see? Because this was at night, and that the light body had been activated, and you could see its whole body. You could see its eyes and everything. And they weren't red and evil. They were just, I think they were black. So that got me interested in Batsquatch. And it was after that I heard the reports of people seeing physical Batsquatches in the daytime. But I would like to have a Sasquatch fight club, you know what I mean? Or a Batsquatch fight club, because you'd have to have it in a cave, right? So that the Batsquatch can't fly 30 feet in the air. And then you could also have be like an alien fight club, where you have Batsquatch, you have Bigfoot, you have lizard people, you have all those weird aliens you see in all the movies. Just bring them all in, and let's just fight it out, like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, and just beat the fuck out of them. You know what I mean? bring in the so-called evil aliens or whatever, and let's just beat the fuck out of them. You know what I mean? Because it's obviously possible. because like I said, Ken Rolla, those are 3 reptilians who got their asses kicked by a human. So let's keep it going and beat their asses into benevolence, beat them into a spiritual path. You know what I mean? Let's accelerate the process. So, those are just a few stories that I've seen. I have hundreds of stories of things like that. Even like your traditional like paranormal activity, paranormal ghost type stuff. Tons of things like that. I do wanted to share one thing that some of the human benevolent aliens told me one time that kind of gets into paganism and Wicca, all that sort of stuff. They told me, the human aliens, they told me one time that witchcraft and sorcery was given to human beings by the Palladian aliens, human aliens, during the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, which, well, depending on which ancient alien person you talk to, is anywhere between 12,000 to 40,000 years ago. And that really kind of like sounded right, sounded correct to me, and it my soul confirmed it to me. I'm not going to say it resonated with me, because that's too new age for me. Nothing wrong with new age. I don't care about, I don't condemn the new age movement or philosophy. I don't use that spiritual technique anymore. I just go directly, I ask my soul, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, is that true or not? And it'll tell me, or I will tell me, because it's just me talking to me, right? But it made sense. You got all these aliens, reptile aliens and bad aliens all over the planet, and people need to defend themselves and just go. Because, if you had like one of those like gray aliens trying to like abduct you all the time, just do a black magic curse them, hex them, mess them up. And to me, it made a lot of sense. It sounded like it would really work, because they're not immune to magic. They're not immune to sorcery. It sounded like a really practical way of self-defense, back then. The other thing in the UFO community that is insane, that started out kind of like a, I don't know, kind of reasonable, was the whole idea that Trump is the aliens, the good aliens helped Trump get elected so he could get rid of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama, all the Hollywood actors, and all of the child molesters in Washington, D.C. And I guess they called it the QAnon movement. I guess it started with Pizzagate, the Pizzagate movement conspiracy theory. That was, I guess its close to its origins, but more of its mainstream origin was Pizzagate. And maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe not. But now it's 2020 and Hillary Clinton is still walking around. Obama's still around. Bill Clinton's still around. Hollywood's doing better every year. And I don't see any activity on that front. If you Google QAnon and its failures, there's several posts where you can see its percentages of its hits and misses, just like a psychic. Or not like a psychic, but a charlatan psychic, because there are a lot of real psychics out there. But say like a swindler who's a psychic, they count the hits and misses, and the person will only remember the hits. And they'll forget about the billion misses that the psychic used to get that one piece of information. And that's the same with QAnon right now, is 83% of QAnon's predictions have failed. And there's only 15 of them that actually happened. And those 15 were just basic common sense. They weren't anything that was, mind-blowing or actually could have been known to someone who's on the inside. Because the Q guy is supposed to be working in the Trump administration, and he has the Q clearance, which is a real clearance, but it's not a very high clearance. Because you have to remember that the president isn't part of Black Ops. He's being kept out of the loop of the real world, the real information, and the real government. And if you go into once again the UFO community and the conspiracy community, Dr. Stephen Greer has documented this very well in his books about how the president is not part of the real government. He's simply a mouthpiece or a puppet. And he doesn't really have a lot of power. He can do some of the things he wants to, and most of the goals of presidents lately are just basic things like economics and health related things. But Trump the Trump administration is supposed to have what started out as 10,000 sealed indictments of all these child molesters in Washington and Hollywood and all over the place. Then the number went up to 25,000. Then the number went up to 40,000. And now I think it's up to like 100,000 or something like that. 100,000 sealed indictments that Trump is waiting on. He's waiting on them. And this information comes from QAnon. That's the person who's been saying that. You can access QAnon on 8chan. But a lot of people, including myself, have left QAnon because nothing has ever happened. The majority of their predictions didn't happen. And it's like, it's not worth it. It's obviously, the guy obviously isn't who he says he is. And he's not JFK Jr., because if you really were on the inside of the Trump administration, you would know actual dates and times of events, because everything in federal government goes by paperwork. And that's what red tape is paperwork. And those documents go through different offices, and they eventually happen. The things will get done. It may take a little while, but they will happen, and different things will get done that way. But it's been 3 years, and 83% of QAnon's predictions have failed. And so it's like, well, fuck off. I'm done with QAnon. You know what I mean? It's obviously bullshit. You know, what is really ridiculous is that, let's say the QAnon guy was legit, right? When Trump took office. If he's really trying to go after all these people, all these celebrities, these power people in Washington, D.C., and including, different agencies, they could kill him within a millisecond. There is no one who cannot be killed, as far as the government is concerned, as far as the CIA, and especially as far as black ops or the shadow government is concerned. If they want you dead, they're going to kill you. It's as simple as that. And if Trump really was a light worker, or a new age light worker, or a someone who is being helped by benevolent aliens and higher powers, higher spiritual masters and things like that, the Black Ops community would kill him. If Trump really was trying to fight against the Illuminati just kill him. It's that simple. It's that simple. You don't mess with these people. You can't fight against them. It's that simple. And remember, no matter who you vote for, the permanent government will always be there. You can vote for a Democrat or Republican, but the permanent government is always going to be there. And they're going to give that president the choice of death or follow their shadow government or Illuminati agenda. It's that simple. Or they could clone them. That's some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard of, is human cloning. I remember there were some celebrities who were into freezing themselves in cryo chambers, and they were also into human cloning and wanted to clone themselves, and and wake up in the year 3030 or something. But if they cloned a sheep in the 90s, they could easily clone a human being now, especially a president who's trying to fight against the Illuminati, which is the dumbest thing you could probably ever do in your life. Especially black ops. Black ops will kill you just by looking at you. That's what they do. They took over the government. And that's who Dr. Stephen Greer was trying to get in touch with, was the Black Ops government, to get answers about UFOs. But he failed. He's been doing it for 30 years, 20 years, 25 years. But in all sincerity, if let's say Trump really was trying to fight against the government, the Illuminati and Black Ops, the easiest thing to do would be just to clone him. And from what I've read and heard from other people in the UFO community, is that it takes 5 months to grow the clone, right? and then you just put them out in public. It's simple. The technology is so that far advanced. They don't need to do anything else. They just need a piece of your skin or something, or hair. And they have a clone. So that would be the easiest thing to do. And if you threaten someone with that, and you take them down into the cloning, what do they call them? The cloning centers? And you take them down there, and you show them that, they're going to do what you want. Now, here's the thing. Here's another trip. If every president is related, they're part of the Plantagenet bloodline that goes back to the Arabian kings, which goes back to the cuneiform, the king's list on the cuneiform tablets in the museum in England. What those kings were half human, half Anunnaki alien, human alien. And that went back 400,000 years. The first kings on this planet during that time were half human, half alien, half human alien, or Anunnaki. And that's the bloodline of every president, except Van Buren, I believe. And so, if you're going to become president, if you're eligible, you have to be part of that bloodline. If you're part of that bloodline, you're a member of the Illuminati already. And you already know that those cloning centers exist. So Hillary Clinton knows they exist. Trump knows they exist. Obama knows they exist. So why would you even... You would have to be ridiculously stupid to fight against the Illuminati and the Black Ops, because you know the cloning centers exist. And who knows what else they have. They could have technology that could, like, who knows? It could, like, shrink you down to the size of an ant or something. You know what I mean? Ant-Man technology. That's the other conspiracy theory, is that they release the technology they have in movies, and then when they then they want to bring it to the public. They say, "Look, we put it in a movie. Why are you so shocked?" But I don't know if I buy that one, that conspiracy theory. But if the cloning centers are real, and you're part of the Plantagenet bloodline, and you're running for president, you get elected. You know what they can do to you. They could clone your wife, your family, your friends. So it's in your best interest to follow what the Illuminati want you to do, because they'll fuck you up worse than anyone, you know? And I don't buy the idea that Trump is fighting against the Illuminati. It's ridiculous. Do what they want. Live your life. You know, don't get messed up. Don't become a clone. And by the way, if you do get cloned, they kill you. They will kill you, and then your clone will take your place in the Oval Office, in the White House, or wherever. So I mean, it's just insane to think that Trump is against the Illuminati. Give me a break. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was you have like all these, this is around the nutrition and diet and weightlifting world. Do you have like personal trainers and all these idiots? First of all, if you have a gigantic beer gut, if you're fat, get in shape and then become a personal trainer, because I don't care what you say. I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say if you're fat and you are a personal trainer. But a lot of these dudes, personal trainers and just fitness freaks and fanatics, they use these terms like micro and macros. And what does that mean? In reality world, it means food. Micros and macros is food and vitamins and minerals. Why complicate shit? It's not that complicated. If you want to lose weight, starve your fucking self, okay? And exercise. Don't eat, and then exercise. And if you're going to eat, don't eat much. Eat a little bit. Keep your calories under 1,600 to 1,500 a day. That's it. So you have food, and that is protein, carbohydrates, and fats. No, it's macros, man. It's macros. Come on. No, it's protein, carbohydrates, and fats. How many, if you're going to use that term and you're serious about the gym and training, and somebody asks you, how many macros you have today? Who gives a fuck? I had 300 grams of protein today. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's called food, bitch. Okay, these terms are insane. A lot of people back in the 1920s and 30s, they didn't use these fucking terms. They were shredded. Their muscles were huge. And this was before steroids. And these guys looked amazing. And they have no fucking idea what a macro is or a micro. You know what I mean? It's just insane that people do this. I knew one guy, he told me that he went to his butcher's to get his meat, right? And one thing that he would do was he would ask the butcher for the bones of the cow. And I guess the butcher would give him bones of cows and different things like that. And he would grind up in a coffee grinder. And, well, he'd chop it up first. And then he'd put some of the rest of it in a coffee grinder and grind it up into a powder. And he'd put that powder in his protein shakes and in his food. And he would get like 6 or 7 chicken breasts, throw it in a blender, throw in a giant can of cream of mushroom soup, blend it up, and then bake it. And that's what he'd eat all week. But he'd mix the cow bones into that mix. I knew another guy who would mix worms that you fish with into his protein shakes. Sometimes he would just eat the worm by itself. You know what I mean? And you have to remember that the placebo effect is real. And if these guys do this crazy shit, it's going to work. You know what I mean? This type of shit works if your mind thinks it'll work. But if you're going to go on a diet, just use the term food, carbohydrates, meats or proteins, and fats. Macros is fucking ridiculous. Nobody cares about that type of shit. Just use the term food. I remember one time in the gym, I saw this guy. He was getting ready to squat, like I think it was about 500-600 pounds. And I was talking to him, and he pulled out one of those ammonia caps, and he snorted it. He's like, "Yeah, man," and he was all like super enthusiastic and all like just super energized. And he was jacked on steroids. I mean, like as many steroids as you can fit inside of someone's you can inject inside someone's ass. So he goes down below parallel with about 600 pounds, comes back up, goes for his second rep, and we hear this like weird noise, like a balloon, like a balloon. You know, we're like, is somebody blowing up balloons or something? And anyway, he stands up, and there's all this. He shit his pants. There's like this giant, like perfect circle of diarrhea around his pants, and he didn't wear exercise clothing. He wore jeans, and these are expensive jeans, and he's got this giant, like brownish black circle on the bottom of his ass showing through his jeans. And I told him, I said, I guess the ammonia tab didn't help you much with that. It was just, you never know, you know what I mean? You were able to keep conscious while lifting that amount of weight, but your ass was like, fuck it. You know? It's pretty crazy. But yeah, if you really just try to be aware of stuff like that. You know, you're going to put a lot of pressure on your body. You might shit yourself, you know, you might pass out. But if you want to lose weight, just stop eating and start exercising, or both. It's not a mystical thing that is, you know, eluding medical science and even the yoga masters in the Himalayas of India can't figure it out. You know, it's simple. You know, stop eating carbohydrates, or just stop eating altogether and start doing intermittent fasting and things like that. And exercise. It's not complicated. But anyway, I'm gonna head out. Yeah, let me know if you like this podcast. This is what it's going to be about: is like spirituality, the gym, paganism, nutrition, you know, and UFOs and all that crazy shit. Okay, well, have a good one, guys. See you later.